Welcome back, students. Today we are going to learn about the NetFlow, which is a network analytics tool developed by Cisco. So this NetFlow is invented by Cisco and is the leader in IP traffic flow technology. Cisco IOS NetFlow efficiently provides a key set of services for IP applications, including network traffic accounting, usage-based network billing, network planning, security, denial of service monitoring capabilities, and network monitoring. So these are the services which are provided by the NetFlow. What is this denial of service monitoring capability? So denial of service is a cyber attack in which the perpetrator seeks to make a machine or a network resources unavailable to its intended users by temporarily or indefinitely disrupting resources of host which is connected to the internet. NetFlow provides valuable information about network users and applications, peak usage times, so when the network is used heavily, that peak usage time, traffic routing. So these valuable informations will be provided by the NetFlow. NetFlow version 9, the latest Cisco IOS NetFlow innovation, is a flexible and extensible method to record network performance data. So this is a NetFlow version 9 is a extensible method for recording the network performance. I have given the hyperlink here. If you want to check, you can check the details of NetFlow version 9. Cisco is currently working with a number of partners to provide customers with comprehensive solutions for NetFlow based planning, monitoring, and billing. So these are the operations done by a network analytics tool, right? So we have studied in the previous class. So Cisco is currently working on many partners to provide the solutions, NetFlow based solutions like planning, monitoring, and billing. Flexible NetFlow architecture. So let us see the architecture of NetFlow. Flexible NetFlow, FNF in short, and IETF IPFix defined by RFC 5101 and RFC 5102 are the examples of protocols that are widely used for networks, that is network analytics. FNF is developed by Cisco Systems and it is widely deployed all over the world. The key advantages of flexible NetFlow are as follows. The advantages like flexibility, scalability, and aggregation of flow data. It will provide aggregation in the sense the average of the data flow can be identified. Then ability to monitor a wide range of packet information. So it can gather the packet information and produce a new information about network behavior. So it gathers the packet information and it will derive some information out of it to analyze the network behavior. Enhanced network anomaly and security detection is another advantage. It will detect the network anomaly and security. User configurable flow information for performing customized traffic identification. Convergence of multiple accounting technologies in one accounting mechanism. So it will combine the multiple accounting technologies for developing a particular good one accounting mechanism. So this is the overview of flexible NetFlow architecture. So here it is the first packet of flow will create the flow entry using key fields. So here it says the first packet of a flow will create the flow entry using the key fields. So you can see here there are key fields and non-key fields. Okay, key fields and non-key fields. Key fields like source IP address, destination IP address, source port number, destination port number, layer 3 protocol, TOS byte, interface and non-key fields are length and packet count. So this will be the key fields and non-key fields which will be created by the first packet of the flow. Remaining packets of this flow will only update the statistics, that is the bytes, how many bytes it carried, the counters and timestamps will be updated by the remaining packets. First packet will give all these key fields, create all these key fields and non-key fields. The remaining next packets will update the data, the statistics of the value, which is stored in the cache. Flexible net flow has the following main components. So that is FNF flow monitor, which is a net flow cache which we saw in the previous diagram. Here this is a flexible net flow cache, which is also called as a flow monitor. It describes the net flow cache for information stored in the cache. So what information is stored in the cache is the fields that are destination source IP address, destination IP address, source port, destination port, layer 3 protocol, TOS, bytes, etc. So which we have seen in this flow monitor, the key fields that will be stored in the cache. The flow monitor contains the flow record definitions with the key fields and non-key fields, which we just saw. Key fields are used to create a flow unique per flow record which match the statement, and non-key fields are collected with the flow as attribute or characteristics of the flow. So here key fields means it is unique per flow, and non-key fields will collect the attributes or the characteristics of a flow within the cache. The flow monitor includes various cache characteristics, including timers for exporting, the size of the cache, and the packet sampling rate if required. What is this packet sampling rate? In a flow, a particular the packet is sampled, that is normally one in n packets will be captured and analyzed for various factors. So that is packet sampling rate. The next component in the FNF is FNF flow record. It is a set of key and non-key net flow field values used for characterize flows in the net flow cache. It may be predefined or it may be user defined. A typical predefined record aggregates flow data and allows user to target common applications for net flow, whereas the user-defined records allow selection of a specific key or a non-key field in the flow record. So predefined means it will be already fixed, but user-defined you can select specific key or non-key fields in the flow record. The next component is FNF exporter. There are two primary methods for accessing net flow data using the show commands at the command line interface. That is one method, and the other method is using an application reporting tool. NetFlow export pushes the information periodically to the NetFlow reporting collector. So what this FNF exporter will do, it will push the information periodically. After every time interval, it will push the data information to the NetFlow reporting collector. The flexible NetFlow exporter allows the user to define where the export can be sent, type of transport for the export, and properties for the exports. These all information will be given by the user for the flexible NetFlow exporter. Multiple exporters can be configured per flow monitor. There can be multiple exporters. The next component is flow export timers. Timers indicate how often flows should be exported to the collection and reporting server. So timers will indicate how often, that means at what time, regular time intervals, the data should be exported to the collection and reporting server. Next component is net flow export format. So it defines the format, indicates the flow reporting format, in which format the flow should be reported to the server. Net flow server for collecting and reporting is another component. This is the destination of the flow export. It is often done with an analytics tool, and that looks for anomalies in the traffic's pattern. So this will give you the report of traffic. This is giving you a report of traffic on a smart grid fan. Fan is field area network, so it is captured and it is giving the flow report of the traffic. So here you can see the SCADA is giving you the report. Like here, this is the daily max traffic it is recorded, and this is the daily min value it has recorded. So these are all the meter readings. So this graph will tell you the report of traffic on a smart grid fan. Here I have given a video to summarize all the concepts what we studied just now. So let us watch the video.
Hello, my name is Mike, and in this video I'll provide a basic overview of the topic, what is NetFlow? This presentation is important because it provides the foundational basics necessary if you want to understand many of my other training videos. So what is NetFlow? When a packet enters an interface that the router hasn't seen before, it will decide whether or not to route the datagram, and if it forwards the datagram, it will make an entry in the flow cache on the router based on matching criteria in the packet. The flow cache entry contains things like the destination and source IP addresses, the destination and source ports, the source interface, the protocol, the bytes, and some other details are all entered into the flow cache. The packet is then routed out the destination interface. As the following packets that match an existing flow entry come into the router, the byte and packet counters keep incrementing for each additional datagram until the connection between the hosts involved in a flow is torn down. So packets that enter the router that don't have a matching flow entry are first determined to be routable, and if they are accepted, they are then forwarded after a flow cache entry is made. A flow cache can contain hundreds of thousands of entries, and in some cases into the millions. Now when the flows expire, they are exported off to the NetFlow collector, which will constantly analyze and archive the flows for future reference. The NetFlow collector can then provide details on things like the threats detected, the network topology, top interfaces, and of course graphical trends. NetFlow is used for finding bandwidth hogs, hunting down network threats, isolating application slowness issues, and even for usage-based billing by some service providers. You should know that many hardware vendors are now adopting IPFix, which is the official standard for all flow technologies. Both the NetFlow and IPFix can be performed in hardware or software. They can be used to export information in real time, right down to the second, and they can be used for both flow and packet sampling, much like SFlow. If you'd like to learn more, you can take one of our advanced NetFlow training classes that are offered in most major cities. Just go to...
Okay, that is about the NetFlow network analytics tool. So let us now learn about securing IoT. That is how to provide security to the IoT networks. What are the challenges? What are the facilities available? What protocols are available? So let us see. If World War III breaks out, it will be fought in cyberspace. So this is the statement in the textbook, but now we are looking at there is chances of biowar, right? So this is the statement in the textbook. That means there is a huge security threat, this statement means to say. IoT brings more systems under the umbrella of network connectivity, like electrical grid and powers of our world, the lights that control the traffic in a city, the systems that keep airplanes flying in an organized and efficient way, isn't it? So these are all in an umbrella of the IoT network. So now you just by looking at these examples, you might have understood how the security of IoT is important, how much it is important. The security of the networks is very much essential, but communications systems, modern communication systems security is not that easy to achieve. The information technology environments have faced active attacks and information security threats for many decades, isn't it? So we have seen the information is lost, money is lost from the accounts, so many other security issues we have encountered. Incidents and lessons learned are well known and documented, right? Operational technology OT environments were traditionally kept in silos and had only limited connection to other networks. So we have seen that IT has not entered OT much. So it is yet to enter. So the OT is having limited connection with the other networks. Thus, the history of cyber attacks on OT is little less than the attacks on IT. Security in OT world also addresses a wider scope than the IT world, isn't it? So if any security issues are happening on IT, some information may be lost, some money is lost, but if security breach happens on OT, then it may create disasters, right? It may destroy a complete infrastructure, or it may be a threat to human life, or it may be causing disastrous environment. So like we have seen it may be like an example of an industry, oil and gas industries or oil rigs. So if security is not taken care of, it will create disasters, isn't it? So in an oil and gas company, for example, if the security is not maintained well, if something happens and oil or gas leaks, we have witnessed it in last few days, right? In Visakhapatnam, toxic oil leakage happened, and surrounding people lost their lives, and the effect may also persist for a longer time. So such kind of disasters may happen if security of OT is not taken care of. For example, in OT, the word security is synonymous to safety. Security we use in IT, but security means in OT it is safety. Security means safety in OT. Let us see a brief history of OT security. Cyber security incidents in industrial environments can result in physical consequences that can cause threats to human lives, just we discussed it, as well as damage to equipment, infrastructure, and also to the environment. Example of cybersecurity attacks are, so here few attacks examples are quoted. The Stuxnet malware that damaged uranium enrichment systems in Iran, damage of furnace in a German smelter in 2000 year, the sewage control system of Maroochy Shire in Queensland, Australia was accessed remotely, and it is released 8 lakh liters of sewage into the surrounding waterways. See how worst it is. In 2015 year, the control systems of the Ukraine power distribution operator were remotely accessed by attackers, causing an outage that lasted for several hours. So power cut was there for several hours. So these were some of the examples if OT cyber attacks are encountered. Evolution of ever-increasing IT technologies in OT space comes with the benefits of increasing accessibility and larger base of skilled operators. So we need skilled operators to provide IT security in OT. Security vulnerabilities are a challenge, and abuse of those systems is often easier and occurs on a much large scale. Security is a major concern because many systems and devices in the operational domain were never envisioned to run on shared open standard based infrastructure. So OT in an OT industry, shared and open standard infrastructure utilization is less. So when it is opened to shared and open standard based structures, security is a major concern. They were not designed and developed with high levels of built-in security capabilities. So here this graph will tell you the history of vulnerability disclosures in industrial control systems since 2010. It is by US Industrial Control Systems Cyber Emergency Response Team, ICS-CERT. So here you can see in 2010 the vulnerabilities are less, and it got increased in 11, 12, 13 it was little less, but 14 it is increased, and 2015 there is a huge increase in the vulnerability reported. Common challenges in OT security. So what challenges need to be faced in ensuring a security in OT, operational technology? Erosion of network architecture. The two of the major challenges in securing industrial environments have been initial design and ongoing maintenance. So how security of OT is difficult, because there will be some initial design which cannot be disturbed, and ongoing maintenance will also be difficult because of that initial design. Communication paths are insecure. A solid design is eroded through ad hoc updates. Any ad hoc updates are done, then that will be difficult to monitor. Individual changes to hardware and machinery without consideration for the broader network impact to the original security design. If any changes in hardware and machinery are done, the security for the connection of outside world also to be taken care of. These uncontrolled or poorly controlled OT network evolutions have over time led to weak and inadequate network and systems security. Because of all these issues, security in IoT has become a challenge. Also because of pervasive legacy systems. This we have already discussed when we were discussing about OT, right? So due to the static nature of long life cycles of equipment, because the equipments and machinery which are used in OT are huge, so huge investment have been made on that, so that cannot be replaced, right? So they have also long life cycles. Many operational systems are legacy systems. From a security perspective, this is dangerous as many devices may have historical vulnerabilities or weaknesses that have not been patched and updated. So already some issues may be there which is not noticed and not updated. Patches are not even available due to the age of the equipment. So equipments are also old, so it is difficult to identify the patches too. Their communication methods and protocols may be generations old. So the methodology what they are using for communication and the protocols, and also we have seen most of the OT are using IPv4. So they are generations old and must be interoperable with oldest operating entity in the communications path. So backward compatibility must be there, so they might not have changed the technology. This includes switches, routers, firewalls, wireless access points, servers, remote access systems, patch management and network management tools. So these are all generations old and they are not updated, these tools. All of these may have exploitable vulnerabilities because there is no updation. So they have exploitable vulnerabilities and they must be protected. This is again a challenge. Then another challenge is insecure operational protocols. Many industrial controls protocols were designed without inherent strong security requirements. So initially it was built without implementing strong security. Examples of common security issues are lack of authentication between communication endpoints. So authentication between the communication endpoints will not be there. No means of securing and protecting data at rest or data in motion. So there is no means of securing data in rest and data at motion. Insufficient granularity of control to properly specify recipients or avoid default broadcast approaches. So to identify the recipient, there is insufficient granularity, and also to avoid broadcast approaches, default broadcast approaches, difficult. The structure and operation of most of these protocols is often publicly available. So as they are publicly available, security becomes an issue. Thus, it becomes relatively simple to compromise the protocols themselves and introduce malicious actors. So intruder will take advantage of this and will be a threat to the security, that may use them to compromise control systems that could lead to undesirable impacts. The common industrial protocols and their security concerns. So some of the protocols used in industry are Modbus. So commonly it is found in many industries such as manufacturing environments, and has multiple variants like serial TCP/IP protocols. Created by this Modbus is created by Modicon and has been in use since from 1970. One of the most widely used protocols in industrial deployments, the Modbus is, and is governed by the Modbus organization. For a message to reach its destination, only the proper Modbus address and function call is necessary. From source to destination, if information need to be sent, only the Modbus address and a function call is sufficient. Hence, authentication of communication endpoints is not a security issue. In broadcast communication, an attack could impact unintended recipient devices. The next protocol is Inter-Control Center Communications Protocol, ICCP in short, used across North America to communicate between utilities. It must traverse the boundaries between different networks. It holds an extra level of exposure and risk to cyber attack. So it has to traverse through the boundaries, and it has a very risk of security. ICCP was designed to work across a WAN, wide area network. Initial versions of ICCP had several significant gaps in the area of security, like system did not require authentication for communication, encryption was not enabled, thus exposing connections to man-in-middle attacks and replay attacks. Then OPC stands for OLE for process control. OLE is object linking and embedding. It is developed by Microsoft. OLE is developed by Microsoft, and it allows embedding and linking to documents and other objects. So OPC is based on Microsoft interoperability methodology, object linking and embedding. In industrial control networks, OPC is limited to operation at higher levels of the control space with a dependence on Windows-based platforms. Many of the Windows devices in operational space are old, not fully patched, and at risk due to plethora of well-known vulnerabilities. They are old and not fully updated, so they are vulnerable to attacks. The dependence on OPC may reinforce that dependence. Newer versions of OPC have enhanced security capabilities. So here 2011 published vulnerability areas are discussed. So you can see with different areas in which the vulnerability chances are more. PLC is PLC is programmable logic controller, multi-vendor config management system, HMI is human machine interface, historian, data logging, communications. So, and the levels of the vulnerabilities you can see in these areas, and the much highest vulnerability is in the area of management system and in human machine interface. This is the stats of 2011 Industrial Security Report of published vulnerability areas, US Industrial Control System Cyber Emergency Response Team. So this is the vulnerability stats of 2018. I have taken this from net. So this stat is given in the textbook. This I have taken from the net. So these are the different areas in which the vulnerabilities are there, but the highest among is the critical manufacturing, and the second highest is the energy. The others being water and wastewater systems, food and agriculture, chemical, commercial facilities, health, finance, government facilities, IT, communications, etc.